Obviously, if you've watched basically any video on my channel, you know that investing is something I think that you should take part in early on in your life, or at least as soon as possible. But I feel like on this channel, I kind of give off the vibe that investing is only really correlated with stocks, and in all reality, that's not the truth. I look at investments in a lot of different ways. Even little things I might buy off Amazon, I look at basically everything as an investment. And although it's not always gonna make me money, that's okay, because I look at things like, is this gonna provide value to me in some way? It could be something as simple as a transmitter for my memory card, or it could be a stock. Both of those I look at as investments, just different kinds of investments that are gonna provide different returns. Obviously, when I buy a stock, I want that return to be in the form of capital. I want that money to turn into more money and make me more money. But you can also invest in things, like I just said, that's not gonna provide you money or more money. For example, you can look at a gym membership as an investment, or a mattress as an investment, things that are gonna better your health and just keep you feeling better as time goes on. You can also look at things like landscaping crews or HOA fees if you own a condo, if you're considering buying a condo, as investments, because that's gonna free up more of your time and you're gonna have more time to pursue different things. Personally, I look at Audible as an investment because I feel it's just worth it. It allows me to expand my human capital. It allows me to read more, even though technically I'm not reading, but it does allow me to learn more. I don't have to be sitting down with the physical book, focusing on it. I can be driving, I can be walking, I can be running, I can be at the gym. There's a lot of different things I can do, and I'm continuing to read, even though I'm not technically reading. Bottom line, you can look at an investment in a lot of different ways. And I feel like since I've started looking at different things that I wasn't looking at before as investments, I've become a lot better off financially, and I feel like I've become a lot more knowledgeable. Now, in saying that, not every investment is going to be a good investment. And in this video, I want to talk about some of the worst investments that I think people make. And although investing in different things is a simple concept to me, a lot of people, it's not that simple, and I can understand why. I feel like a lot of people think they have to do things a certain way, or they have to buy a certain thing because that's how they were taught and that's how the majority of society does it. And this is where it becomes important to develop your own opinion and to do your own research, because you might find something that is appealing to you that maybe the rest of society does not think is the most appealing. Now, if you invested or you bought something that we're going to talk about on this list, it's really not a bad thing. I think if anything, it's going to be a good thing because it's going to be a good learning experience and you're going to end up learning more. And the next time you're in a situation like that, maybe you'll make a different decision, or you'll make a better decision that's ultimately better for you. The first type of investment that I really don't think is the greatest thing to invest in is penny stocks. And I have a couple friends who are actually interested in penny stocks, and they actually do well with it, but I think for the general person, it's not the best. And they can seem appealing, especially when you don't know a lot about investing in stocks, because say you see a stock for 50 cents and you think, well, if I buy 100 of these and it goes up $1, I make $100. And although that math is true, that's not, most of the time, that's not how these penny stocks are going to operate. Penny stocks are really stocks with high risk securities, and they don't really have a lot of liquidity, so that just makes it even less appealing to me personally. Penny stocks, a lot of them also might be struggling, or they might be new, and you might not be able to get as good of information, such as like financial statements, as you could get with other companies like Apple or Google or any of those big name companies. A lot of these penny stocks are also considered over-the-counter stocks, which, and this might be a little biased, kind of what I just said, there might not be a lot of reliable information on them. There might not be the most knowledge around where you feel comfortable digging into it. So even if you did the work and you really dug into this company, there's a chance that that information is invalid. These stocks are also more susceptible to a pump and dump. Basically, what a pump and dump is, to really simplify it, say someone buys into a stock, a penny stock at 10 cents a share. It goes up, 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 up. And this is like with enormous buying. It's not like 1 or 2 shares. It's like a million or 100,000, a lot. I don't know exactly how much it would take to move it, but it would take a lot. And the stock price goes up, gets a little bit of publicity. Some people get FOMO, start to buy into the stock. And then that person who initially bought it up sells out, takes the profit, and the stock goes right back down. And if you're still interested in penny stocks and you just want to ignore everything I just said, which in no way I can blame you because I am just some random person on the internet talking to a camera in my room, then I would say invest a little bit of money. Don't invest your entire life savings in the penny stocks. Like any investment, just dabble in a little bit and then go from there. The second investment I think you should try to avoid is collectibles. Now, if you're passionate about a certain collectible like baseball cards or Star Wars figures, that's a different story. But if you're looking at that as an investment to make you money, then I really don't think that would be the best way to go. I think this way because there's really no measurable fundamental value to collectibles. Look at it this way. So say you want to sell Apple stock today. Say you sell it at $350 or whatever it's at today. You know you can get $350 for that today right now if you sell out Slam Dunk. But say you have a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. You're only going to get what someone else is willing to pay for that. So you might want to get $100 for it, but you might not be able to find someone that will give you $100 for it, as opposed to a stock. If you're selling Apple stock, slam dunk, done deal, forget it. And this could even be more tricky depending on how you perceive it. So say, again, the Ken Griffey Jr. baseball card. Say Ken Griffey Jr. is like your favorite baseball player ever. You might value that card at $200, but really it's only worth $100. They're also a little hard to predict how much they're going to be worth, in my opinion. Say you get a signed helmet from this athlete his rookie year, and you think, oh, in 30 years it's going to be worth so much money. But then 15 years down the road, this player gets in this big scandal, and it's this big mess, and maybe no one really wants to buy that anymore, or it's not valued at what you thought it would be valued at. The third worst investment I think you can make is investing in a portfolio that's not diversified. Now, let's just be clear. No matter what you do with your money, there's going to be some sort of risk involved. If you keep your money under your mattress, obviously there's the risk of losing it or it getting stolen or anything along those lines. If you keep it in a bank, there's the risk of falling victim to inflation. Just for example, if you were to buy something in the year 2000 for say $20,000, that item would cost $30,000 today just due to inflation. So basically, if you look at it like that, your money's cut in half over a 20-year period. And the same thing's gonna happen if you just leave it in a savings account. Anyway, and say you put your money in stocks or ETFs. If you put it in stocks, there's the risk of that company going to zero, or ETFs and stocks, these kind of go hand in hand here in this situation. There's the risk of the market just being down for whatever reason, whether it's a virus or a recession or whatever it is, and just you not being able to touch it for years and years and years, or selling off and taking a loss if it's some money you really need. But the important thing and the whole point of this third thing we're talking about here is to make sure you're diversified enough so if one of your investments goes south, then the other won't be able to pick you up. For example, say you pick 10 different stocks, you have 10 individual stocks, and 8 of them yield a 300% return over 10 years. And the other 2, you're still down 50% over 10 years. Well, you just gained a 300% return over those 8 stocks. So it evens out, it picks up the slack for the other 2. But say you invested in one stock and you picked one of the 2 that was down 50% over however many years I just said. Then you're really in a pinch because you just wasted all that time you could have been compounding and you didn't make any money. So you're even more behind and you don't have the money you thought you were gonna have. This could also just lead to some negative thoughts like forgetting investing altogether, saying it's not for you, saying it's not what people make it out to be, and you just have a sour taste in your mouth, which I can't really say I blame you, but also know that there's ways to go about it so it's a lot safer. And this is actually gonna bring me to my fourth point, which I kind of talked about a little bit previously, but that's keeping too much cash around. And this doesn't mean like physical cash, like the dollar bill that you have in your wallet right now. I mean like just cash you keep in a savings account. Obviously you want to have money around, emergencies happen, things come up you need money for, you want to go out to eat, this and that, yada, yada, yada. But keeping too much cash around or too much cash in a savings account is actually a really big risk. As I talked about in my last point, that $20,000 that you had is going to be about cut in half due to inflation, and it's only going to be worth about $10,000 20 years down the road. But say you invested that $20,000 and you received about an 8% return, that would actually be worth $93,000, give or take, approximately. I'll post it on the screen, over a 20-year period. Now, obviously, if you need that money for a down payment or that really is your emergency fund, don't touch it, don't invest it, just keep it with you just in case you ever need it. But if that $20,000 is just sitting there and you have another $30,000 in a different savings account that's your emergency fund, you might as well invest it and allow your money to compound and allow your money to work for you. Ultimately, people have the idea that they have to work for money, they have to work for however many years, 50 years, 60 years, and then they just roll over and die. I like to flip it. I think my money should be working for me because I worked for it, so I think I should be able to get something out of that. And I feel like if more people flipped that and had the same mindset, then you'd see a lot more people retiring early. The next one I want to talk about here is a timeshare. And although people that sell timeshares, they can have really good pitches and they can really think that you're making a great investment with a timeshare, in all reality, they aren't the best investments to make. In 2017, the average price to buy and do a timeshare was about $22,000. And here's the thing, you don't even own anything. That's what really gets me. You pay all this money and you don't own a single thing at all, and you never will. It's not gonna appreciate, you're not gonna get your money back, and you're just gonna lose it over time. And when you do buy into a timeshare, you're gonna have to pay the maintenance fees, which are about $1,000 annually, but they increase over time. And say there's one year where you didn't want to go to wherever your timeshare is located. Maybe you had a baby, maybe you got married, there's some reason. And you just say, well, I'll just rent it out. A lot of timeshare companies don't let you do that, and they really don't approve of it. It's not like condone for them for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is, but they don't think very highly of that. Depending on the location of where you were looking to get a timeshare, you're honestly probably better off taking that $22,000 or however much it was going to cost you to buy in, using that as a down payment, buying some sort of rental property or even a multifamily, renting out one side of the multifamily and just using the other one as your vacation home. That way, most of the mortgage would be paid for and you can still go away on vacation whenever you want. The sixth investment I think you should avoid is buying a house that's well above your means. Now, obviously a house is gonna build equity. This could be a little more debatable, but the way I look at it is it can easily cause a lot more financial stress over time. And when you commit to a mortgage, say you commit to a 30-year mortgage, that's a long time. A lot can happen in 30 years. You could lose your job, you could change jobs, you could have kids, you could get married, you could have emergencies come up. You don't know what's gonna happen for 30 years. And if that house is already pushing your budget, then you're just gonna feel this mortgage payment more and more and more as time goes on if anything comes up. And even in my experience, when I see these people that do have these big houses and all this room, they don't even use half of it, so it just goes to waste. I just don't see them getting their ROI on this huge house with all this room. I really feel like buying a house below your means is going to allow you to continue to invest more and retire earlier and maybe even follow some of your passions. Imagine if you had this bucket list you really wanted to accomplish and you had these trips you wanted to go on, these places you wanted to go, but you couldn't go on them because you had this mortgage payment that's just too much for you. That would really kill me inside. I don't know about you, but I would rather have a much lower mortgage and be able to take these trips, follow these passions, and really say I went all in with my life as opposed to not being able to do that because I had to make a mortgage payment because I bought a house that was too much for me to afford. And the last bad investment we're going to talk about here is cars. Everyone knows my opinion on buying new and expensive cars. You know, I really think cars keep people poor, and you know, I just don't think they're the greatest investment you can make. Obviously, a lot of people need a car. I need a car, I have a car. Like, I'm not saying don't buy a car, but I'm saying don't go all out and buy this new and expensive, crazy car. Unless that's something you're really passionate about, then that's a different story. But I've seen articles like over 5 years, that car can lose 60% of its value. And then on top of that, I see people who make $45,000 a year and they're just like, I just bought a $40,000 car. And I'm just sitting there like, bruh. And then they go on and say, oh, and I also have $100,000 in student loan debt. And then I'm just really sitting there and I'm like, bruh. You can easily buy the car, the model from the previous year, and you'll get a much, much cheaper price. Or if you really want to go all out, which is what I would do, you can even buy the model from 4 to 5 years ago, and then that car is really going to have depreciated, so you'll probably get a much better deal on it than, say, buying the new car that's going to depreciate by 20% or whatever it is, right when you drive it off the lot. I think a good rule of thumb when buying a new car is the 1/10 rule. Basically, the 1/10 rule says that you won't spend more than 1/10 of your income on a new car. Now, even me personally, because this would mean if you're making $50,000 a year, you wouldn't spend more than $5,000 on a new car. I might spend a little more than that, but this is still a good rule of thumb, and it teaches you that your car payment should not be something that takes up a substantial amount of your income. You also want to take into consideration the type of car you're investing in, because if you buy an expensive car, depending on the brand, it could even cost you more to fix. BMW stands for break my wallet. You also want to take into consideration the opportunity cost when buying a new car versus a used car. Basically, to simplify opportunity cost is, say you want to buy a new car for $40,000. What return on investment would you receive from putting $40,000 in a car versus, say, putting $40,000 in an S&P 500 fund that gives you an 8% return annually? And just run those numbers, and that's your opportunity cost that you could possibly be missing out on. Basically, you understand my take on cars. You know, I really don't like new cars, and that's just my opinion. But say you really want a nice car, you really want to get something all out one day, you can always get it. When you're 40, when you're 50, when you're 60, when you're retired, you can always get it. But what you can't do when you're 20 years old is sign on the dotted line, and you will almost never, ever, ever, unless you are the most luckiest person I've ever met on the planet, get full value back for that car. In saying that, guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you take some of these investments into consideration before you make them next time or before you make them at all. And I'll see you guys in the next video.